Hi, Zinga here again. Tonight I'm going to read a poem from my first book entitled Legacy of a Poetic Soul. The title of the poem is called Interracial Racism, and it pertains to um, racial discrimination and profiling against one's own race. I have come across many people who have had this experience, myself included. Um, this poem is a response to a gentleman, and I use the term loosely, who was pretty rude during a speech that I was making as a motivational speaker at a youth center that I was invited to as a guest speaker. And it's a little bit of an angry tone, I must admit, but it is what it is. And the reason why I chose to read it is because, like I said, many people have come across that same type of experience, and especially nowadays with this movement called Afrocentrism. So here goes: interracial racism. I hope you enjoy it. Police is in pursuit of a stolen blue Camaro on I-95. It is said that after attacking and raping 13-year-old Amanda in the local mall's bathroom, the suspect fled the premises within the stolen vehicle. The suspect is said to be a 15-year-old black male. Night after night, you hear such stories, and they call it the news. I prefer to call it the blues. With these stereotypes, they've molded us into a hideous legacy. Many members of our own black race are dying, it is true. Many have lost their ways, that is true too, and we must say it too. But is it justifiable to figure us out as cruel, ignorant, and savages? I think not. I mean, pretty soon they figured us as a defective race. But let me ask you, don't every race have their goons? Wasn't Hitler a white male? Wasn't it so long ago that the Hindus were taken to Africa as slaves? Wasn't it so long ago that the black race was oppressed here in America? I mean, yes, there are more of us dying of AIDS than other nations. Yes, they have more of us, our mothers, our fathers, our brothers, our sisters, our friends, wasting and rotting away in their jails. But wasn't that a well thought out plan? Ask yourself that question. There are more of our baby sisters raising babies, more of our fathers freeing their families. And for our fatherless youth, I stand here to ask, where are those black fathers of ours? And then they pretend to care, wondering why our black youth is having to face such problems. But you know what? Never mind why. On second thought, why even ask why? I say don't never mind why because I know that this too we shall overcome, just as we have overcome many of our society's obstacles. That is why I stand here today to say, stand up, it is time. The time has come. Wake up, little brother, for you are king. Little sister, you're my queen, and it's time you knew that. So take a stand today. And as our youth reads, writes, and educates one another, I know that this too we shall overcome, just as we have overcome much more and have accomplished much. So we must keep in mind that we can and we have contributed a great deal to today's societies, despite of what they may say. I.e., it was a black man who gave us the street lights to save lives. It was a black man who invented the refrigerator to keep our food safe, again, which saves lives. A black man who came up with and performed the first open heart surgery, only to die himself for being considered less than human to deserve such a treatment. And that is only to name a few of our great men. And that is why I say today, stand up, my beautiful black youth. For the time has come to reclaim our respectful and rightful place in society. In the midst of the still quiet audience, With a loud shout, the public awoke. For as I spoke those words, someone stood up to own up to their own ignorance. Yeah. And here's what they've had to say. Girl, you don't know what you're talking about. What do you know about struggling in the ghetto, or fleeing from the popos, or collecting unemployment, or fleeing from the popos, or anything about acting, or dare I say, being black? You're too mixed, you talk funny, and where the fuck is that accent of yours from anyway? What makes you think you're an expert on the subject of what our youth has been going through? You have no clue of what you're talking about. Just who do you think you are? With your fancy troubles, your language speaking. If you ask me, you have no right to speak the way you do. You never suffered oppression or racism, and you call yourself black. How dare you? But and where do you carry this blackness of yours anyway? Girlfriend, you're not even black enough to call yourself black. As those words rang in my ears and in my heart bled for my beautiful, beautiful, ignorant black man. And so I stood back and I smiled and I said, well, every village must have an idiot. I guess I just found this once. But just out of curiosity, my friend, what exactly is black enough to you? I mean, is it because I choose to wear my hair a certain way? Or to watch shows like Will and Grace rather than Martin? Or is it because my vocabulary is closer to a TV character named Piper or rather than Shanae? Or is it because I refuse to sing songs or listen to songs that refers to my sisters, oops, I'm sorry, sisters, as bitches and whores, which keeps me from being black enough in your eyes? Well, it's true, you're right. I may not have a national anthem, but guess what? My blackness, or my expertise as you put it, Mr. Village Idiot, comes from knowing my Africa, my heritage, from knowing that Dr. King's speech had more than his famous I have a dream phrase to it. It comes from my African cooking, from my way of compa, from my Creole speaking, but most of all, it comes from my African patois. And that is where you'll find my blackness. My blackness, Mr. Idiot, comes from knowing who my ancestors were and what they went through to allow me to stand here today as, guess what? That's right, you've guessed it, an international one. My blackness, Mr. Idiot, comes from knowing that my ancestors, your ancestors, how they lived in a time before time. From knowing not only where I came from and where I'm going, but also what life was like before the shit hit the fan, before Mr. Columbus and his men discovered us indigents. And most of all, it comes from experiencing Africa, my Africa, firsthand. Not black enough, he said? Not black enough. Okay. Well, let me tell you something. Whilst you were busy analyzing my islands, my lands, the motherland as you call it, or trying to figure out where I'm from, or where hip hop takes its origins from, or better yet, here's my favorite, what it is to be or act black. I was busy learning a language called Lingala, exploring a city called Malanje. Not black enough, you say? Well, while you were busy trying to figure out or determine who's good enough or who's close enough to what you call black enough, I was busy learning and experiencing with and exploring a people, a culture, a tribe named the Basikongos. But I bet you have no clue as to what I'm referring to, do you, Mr. Blackman? And although I may never be able to tell you about my struggles in the ghetto, or about my baby daddy dramas, or even about fleeing from the popos, as you so eloquently put it, I am sure I can teach you a thing or two about a food called pondu, shikwanga, mfumbwa. Oh, by the way, have you tasted fufu yet? And yet, here you are today preaching to me about what and who you think is close enough to what you call, what was it again? Oh yeah, that's right, black enough. Well, Let me tell you something. Before you make your assumptions or before you decide to judge me, Mr. Idiot, for not saying things like you is or nigga please, or for believing that we can advance intellectually as a people, in spite of the fact that we have and still are suffering from injustice and racism, before you decide to educate me on how the white man is after you, well, wake up and don't flatter yourself too much. Because guess what? While you're busy complaining about him and his mischiefs and injustices, he is busy making a life for himself and his family. That's right. So, if he is after you, well, all the more reason to prove him wrong, right? As they say, success is the best revenge, right? So before you decide to discriminate against me for the many languages that I speak, or the countries that I sing or dare to dream of, before you value your own blackness, the gold teeth wearing, baggy pants dropping, deadbeat daddies, baby making machines, unemployment collecting, before you decide that only BET knows what it is to be a black person, I suggest that you take a longer and closer look at your own history. Because, my friend, guess what? Dr. King, Dr. Angelo, Emperor Dessalines, Mr. Mulumba, Miriam Makeba, President Mandela, just to name a few of our heroes, seem to disagree with you and your ideologies of what it is to be a black person. And in spite of this fact, let me ask you this, Mr. Blackman. Do you feel less black? Understand this, my friend. I'm not in no way, shape, or form asking you to act or be white. I'm simply requesting your presence when we take a stand against all the injustices our youth has to face, to show to our forefathers that they did not fight and die in vain. Now, for your own sake, will you do that, Mr. Blackman?